So yeah, watch number 7, guys. And
yeah, we're reading 2018, the second half of the 2018 annual letter to shareholders for Berkshire Hathaway, written by Warren Buffett.
now I should
And
be
I'm on a
able to
walk.
focus a little bit better since I have 2 monitors, guys. So now what we can do is we can see the metrics and the chat while reading, and so it's a little less distracting. And so now it should be a little bit bigger, the text on the screen as well. So
Oh, excellent.
yeah, hopefully you guys will be able to read with us. Alright, start on insurance float funding of Berkshire Hathaway.
All right, insurance float and the funding of Berkshire. Our property casualty PC insurance business, our fifth grove, has been the engine propelling Berkshire's growth since 1967, the year we acquired National Indemnity, and its sister company, National Fire and Marine, for $8.6 million. Today, National Indemnity is the largest property casualty company in the world as measured by net worth. With the traffic going by, and I might have to pause as the cars go by, but I'll get off this busy road in just about a minute or two.
Okay. Wait, I'll pick off where you were at. Wait, where were we at? Today,
one reason we were...
Yeah, did you get the net worth part yet, or no?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, yeah. One reason we were attracted to the P/C business is the industry business model. P/C insurers receive premiums up front and pay claims later. In extreme cases, such as claims arising from exposure to asbestos or severe workplace accidents, payments can stretch over many decades. This collect now, pay later model leaves PC companies holding large sums money we call float that will eventually go to others. Meanwhile, insurers will get to invest this float for their own benefit, though individuals' policies will claim and go. The amount of the float an insurance hold usually remains fairly stable in relation to premium volumes. Consequently, as our business grows, so does our float. How it has grown, as the following table shows.
So in 1970, they had float of $39 million, and in 2018, they had float of $122 million.
Yeah.
Pretty good growth.
It's a lot of growth.
122. No, not 122 million, 122 billion.
Yeah. It's a lot of float.
Yeah.
And what they can do is buy other companies with that float as long as they're responsible with it, right?
Right. Entire companies or shares of publicly traded companies.
Yeah. Hey, some
What? Yeah, why don't you keep... What's that?
Somebody put W in the chat for winning.
All right.
They said if
why don't you continue reading?
Give you money, I would give you money for Oreos. Okay, what? Alright, me continue reading?
Yeah.
Okay, we may experience a decline in float. If so, the decline will be very gradual. At the outside, no more than 3% a year. Nature of our insurance contracts, such as that we can never be subject to an immediate or near-term demands for sums that are significant to our cash resources, that are structured by design and is a key component in the unqualified financial strength of our insurance companies. That strength will never be compromised.
Okay, I'll read. If our premiums exceed the total of our expenses and eventual losses, our insurance registers an underwriting profit that adds to the investment income the float produces. When such a profit is earned, we enjoy the use of free money, and better yet, get paid for holding it. Actually, why don't you continue reading?
Sorry, I wasn't 100% focused on that. I was typing in the chat. Where are we?
All right. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we wish all issuers to achieve this happy result. Create intense competition so vigorously indeed that sometimes the PC industry that of the whole operation is a significant underwriting loss. That loss in effect is what the industry pays to hold its float. Competitive dynamic almost guarantees that insurance industry, despite the float income and all of its companies, will continue its dismal record of earning subnormal returns on tangible net worth compared to other American businesses.
All right, did you follow all that?
Well, the audience might not have, and I don't know everything, so let's see. What's the P/C industry? That's my first question.
That is property/casualty.
Property/casualty, and then...
Yeah, and it's insurance. Property/casualty insurance.
Yeah.
So, like car insurance, or home insurance, or boat insurance. When he says, unfortunately, the wish of all insurers to achieve this happy result creates intense competition. What is this happy result that he's referring to?
I'm not sure.
It's the previous sentence it's the last sentence in the previous paragraph.
Profit.
The use of free money, getting paid for holding it. When the float is achieved in such a way that the premiums exceed their expenses and losses, then they have a profit.
Exactly. So yeah.
They have an underwriting profit. And so they get the profit from the underwriting, plus they get the use of the float.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But he's saying that unfortunately, everybody wants that, and because everybody wants that in the insurance business, the competition is really high, and because competition is really high, it usually results in the insurance companies writing insurance policies at a loss because they're so competitive to get that float. Often they will write their policies at a loss. So that's basically what he's writing about in that paragraph.
Yeah, that's true, probably.
All right, I'll keep reading. Nevertheless, I like our own prospects. Berkshire's unrivaled financial strength allows us more flexibility in investing our float than that generally available to PC companies. The many alternatives available to us are always an advantage and occasionally offer major opportunities. When other insurers are constrained, our choices expand. Moreover, our PC companies have an excellent underwriting record. Berkshire has now operated at an underwriting profit for 15 of the past 16 years, the exception being 2017 when our pre-tax loss was $3.2 billion. For the entire 16-year span, our pre-tax gain totaled $27 billion, of which $2 billion was recorded in 2018. That record is no accident. Disciplined risk evaluation is the daily focus of our insurance managers, who know that the benefits of float can be destroyed by poor underwriting results. All insurers give that message lip service. At Berkshire, it is religion, Old Testament style. I think he said that in one of the previous letters we read.
Yeah.
Okay, anything to comment about that?
No.
Okay, well, would you like to keep reading? Or would you like to continue reading, I mean?
Yeah. Or you want me to continue reading?
Yes.
Okay. In most cases, the funding of a business comes from two sources, debt and equity. At Berkshire, we have two additional arrows that in the quiver to talk about, but let's first address the conventional components. We use debt sparingly.
Let me pause you. What is a quiver?
I don't know.
It is it's the tube that holds the arrows.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, like this, right? One of those.
Let me see. What are you pulling up?
Like that. Like it goes on your back, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only on my phone, so I was just looking at the letter, so I couldn't see you until I switched over, and there was a bunch of stuff in the way.
Yeah.
What is anybody in the chat?
There's one person in the chat. That's it.
Well, what do you think about the my background?
My background's nice.
Oh, good. All right. Okay. I interrupted you just because I wanted to make sure that the words we read, we know what they mean, so we know what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he said that most businesses, the funding comes from two areas. Which two areas?
Debt and equity.
Okay. Do you know what debt is?
Yeah.
Do you know what equity is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can explain it to the audience if you want.
Anybody who doesn't know can look it up on Google. I just want to make sure that you knew what those two were. Now he's going to talk about two other ones.
Okay.
But he says, let's first address the conventional components.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and read. We use debt sparingly. Many managers, it should be noted, will disagree with this policy, arguing that significant debt juices the returns for equity owners. And these more venturesome CEOs will be right most of the time. At rare and unpredictable intervals, however, credit vanishes and debt becomes financially fatal, a Russian roulette equation. Usually win, occasionally die, may make financial sense for someone who gets a piece of a company's upside, but does not share in its downside. But that strategy would be madness for Berkshire. Rational people would be madness for Berkshire. Rational people don't risk what they have and need for what they don't have and don't need. Most of the debt you see on our consolidated balance sheet, see page K65, resides at our railroad and energy subsidiaries, both of them asset-heavy companies. During recession, the cash generation of these businesses remains bountiful. The debt they use is both appropriate for their operations and not guaranteed by Berkshire. All right, would you like to continue?
Okay, sure. Our level of equity capital is a different story. Berkshire, $349 billion, is unmatched in its corporate America by retained all earnings for a very long time and allowing compound interest to work its magic. We have amassed funds that have enabled us to purchase and develop the valuable groves earlier described. Had we followed a 100% payout policy, we still would be working with $22 million, with which we began fiscal in 1965.
Fiscal 1965, yeah. So he's talked about retained earnings and using them in the past, but this is a really good illustration of just how powerful it is, and that he's been able to grow the level of equity capital in the business by so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read some. Beyond, or unless you have more to comment about that.
No.
Beyond using debt and equity, Berkshire has benefited in a major way from two less common sources of corporate funding. Oh, good. So now he's going to talk about the other two arrows in the quiver. The larger is the float I have described. So far, those funds, though they are recorded as huge net liability on our balance sheet, have been of more utility to us than an equivalent amount of equity. That's because they have usually been accompanied by underwriting earnings. In effect, we have been paid in most years for holding and using other people's money. As I have often done before, I will emphasize that this happy outcome is far from a sure thing. Mistakes in assessing insurance risks can be huge and can take many years to surface. Think asbestos. A major catastrophe that will dwarf Hurricanes Katrina and Michael will occur, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps many decades from now. The big one may come from a traditional source, such as a hurricane or earthquake, or it may be a total surprise involving, say, a cyber attack, having disastrous consequences beyond anything insurers now contemplate. When such a mega catastrophe strikes, we will get our share of the losses, and they will be big, very big. Unlike many other insurers, however, we will be looking to add business the next day. How about you read what the final funding source is?
The final funding source, which is again Berkshire's possessive to an annual unusual degree, is deferred as taxes. These are
deferred income taxes.
Deferred income taxes. These are liabilities that we will eventually pay, but that are meanwhile interest free. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
As an indicator earlier, about 14.7 billion of our 50 billion of deferred taxes arise from unrealized gains in our equity holdings. These liabilities are accrued in our financial statements at the current 21% corporate tax rate, but will be paid out at the prevailing when our investments are sold between now and then. We effect to have interest-free loan that allows us to have more money working for us as in equities. How do you say that word? I don't know what that means. Equities?
Between now and then, we would affect an interest-free loan. Yeah, equities.
Equities, okay. Then would otherwise be the case.
All right, did you follow all that?
So 14 billion is deferred, and it's basically kind of like a loan for right now at a 0% interest rate. That's what I got from that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see how you got to that. So their equities are their shareholdings in other companies, mostly. And as long as they don't sell the shares, then the gains are unrealized.
Yeah.
So they only have to pay the taxes, the income taxes on the sale of the shares when they sell the shares.
Yes.
So until that happens, the shares just continue to increase in value, and Berkshire won't have to pay income tax until they actually sell those shares.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, keep reading. Please.
Me keep reading. Fine. A further
just the next two paragraphs, then I'll read some.
Okay. A further 28.3 billion of deferred tax results from being able to accelerate the depreciation of assets such as plant and equipment in calculating the tax we must currently pay. The front-end savings in taxes that we record gradually reserve in the future years. We regularly purchase additional assets.
Hold on. The front-end savings in taxes that we record gradually reverse in future years.
Yeah. What does that mean?
We're talking about depreciation. So if you own something like railroad tracks, like train tracks, they wear out and have to be replaced. So that or other assets like buildings that you might own or equipment that, manufacture stuff. The tax that they have to pay can be deferred as a result of the depreciation of those assets and the being able to accelerate the depreciation of those assets.
Yeah.
So they get to save the tax money up front. They have to pay less taxes because they're depreciating their assets. And that deferred tax liability money can be used for whatever Berkshire wants to use it for.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
We regularly purchase additional assets. However, as long as the present tax law prevails, this source of funding should trend upward. Over time, Berkshire's funding base at the right-hand side of our balance sheet should grow primarily through the earnings we retain. Our job is to put money retained to good use on the left-hand side by adding attractive assets.
Okay, very good. I'll just keep reading.
Yeah.
Geico and Tony Nicely. The title says it all. The company and the man are inseparable. Tony joined Geico in 1961 at the age of 18. I met him in the mid-1970s. At that time, Geico, after a 4-decade record of both rapid growth and outstanding underwriting results, suddenly found itself near bankruptcy. A recently installed management had grossly underestimated Geico's loss costs and consequently underpriced its product. It would take many months until those loss-generating policies on Geico's books, there were no less than 2.3 million of them, would expire and could then be repriced. The company's net worth, in the meantime, was rapidly approaching zero. In 1976, Jack Bryan was brought in as CEO to rescue Geico. Soon after his arrival, I met him and concluded that he was the perfect man for the job and began to aggressively buy Geico shares. Within a few months, sorry for the noise back there. Within a few months, Berkshire bought about 1/3 of the company, a portion that later grew to roughly 1/2 without our spending a dime. That stunning accretion occurred because Geico, after recovering its health, consistently repurchased its shares. All told, this half-interest in Geico cost Berkshire $47 million, about what you might pay today for a trophy apartment in New York. Let's now fast forward 17 years to 1993, when Tony Nicely was promoted to CEO. At that point, Geico's reputation and profitability had been restored. It's cold out here. But not its growth. Indeed, at year-end 1992, the company had only 1.9 million auto policies on its books, far less than its pre-crisis high. In sales volume among U.S. auto insurers, Geico then ranked an undistinguished 7th. Late in 1995, after Tony had re-energized Geico, Berkshire made an offer to buy the remaining 50% of the company for $2.3 billion, about 50 times what we had paid for the first half. And people say I never pay up. Our offer was successful and brought Berkshire a wonderful but underdeveloped company and an equally wonderful CEO who would move Geico forward beyond my dreams. Geico is now America's number 2 auto insurer, with sales 1,200% greater than it recorded in 1995. Underwriting profits have totaled $15.5 billion pre-tax since our purchase, and float available for investment has grown from $2.5 billion to $22.1 billion. By my estimate, Tony's management of Geico has increased Berkshire's intrinsic value by more than $50 billion. On top of that, he is a model for everything a manager should be, helping his 40,000 associates to identify and polish abilities they didn't realize they possessed. Last year, Tony decided to retire as CEO. And on June 30th, he turned that position over to Bill Roberts, his longtime partner. I've known and watched Bill operate for several decades, and once again, Tony made the right move. Tony remains chairman and will be helpful to Geico for the rest of his life. He's incapable of doing less. All Berkshire shareholders owe Tony their thanks. I head the list. All right, would you like to read the next part?
Sure. All right, investments. Below the 15 common stocks investments.
Oh, wait. Before we get into that, should we discuss what we just read at all?
So basically they're talking about how they made sure Geico stayed successful. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, what I got out of it was that Warren feels and expresses his gratitude for his managers. You know, his managers do a lot of work, and Warren recognizes that.
Yes.
And does so publicly, in a public way. So,
alrighty.
Okay, go ahead.
Alrighty. I almost lost my spot. Investments. Below, we lose our 15 common stock investments that yearned.
We list.
Yeah. That yearn the largest group of market value. We must exclude Kraft Heinz. Oh my goodness, I say this every single time. Okay. Holding of 325 million shares because Berkshire is part of a control group and therefore must account this investment on the equity method. It's on our balance sheet. Berkshire carries Kraft Heinz holding at a GAAP figure of $13.8 billion. The amount has reduced our share of the largest write-off by an intangible asset taken by Kraft Heinz in 2018. Yearned. Our Kraft Heinz holding has a market value of $14 billion on a cost basis of $9.8 billion. Oof, okay, that's a little confusing to me. So they invested $9.8 billion and the market value is $14 billion, but how much it's worth to them is $13.8 billion. Is that what they're saying?
Well, they're carrying it on their balance sheet at the GAAP figure of $13.8 billion.
Is that a loss or win or what is that?
Well, remember, we're talking about this is the 2018 report. So at the end of 2018, they're valuing Berkshire is valuing their holdings of Kraft Heinz on their balance sheet at the GAAP figure of $13.8 billion. So for reporting to the government purposes and to the public, they're saying it's worth $13.8 billion. And that's an amount reduced by Berkshire's share of the write-off of intangible assets that Kraft Heinz took in 2018. So in 2018, Kraft Heinz took a large write-off of their intangible assets. So then he's saying at the end of 2018, the market value of their holdings in Kraft Heinz, meaning what does the stock market value it at, was $14 billion.
Yeah.
And Berkshire's cost basis was $9.8 billion. Is cleared up at all or not cleared up?
Yeah, that helps a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
so then he shows this.
We got 4 people viewing now.
All right, hello viewers.
All right, let's look at this. Every time this is fun. Let's see if there's anything new. Ooh, there's something new from last time. There's USG Corporation. I don't remember seeing that one. All right.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that one either.
What else? No, we've seen that. Is Goldman Sachs also one we haven't seen yet?
I thought we saw that one in the 2019 letter.
Maybe we did.
But maybe not, but I thought we had.
I remember seeing the rest, but I'm not 100% sure on Goldman Sachs. Alright, so cost was $102 billion and market is $172 billion.
Right.
So they're doing well. They're doing well.
Yeah, you want to read the I'll read it. Charlie and I do not view the $172.8 billion detailed above as a collection of ticker symbols, a financial dalliance to be terminated because of downgrades by the street, expected Federal Reserve actions, possible political developments, forecasts by economists, or whatever else might be the subject du jour. What we see in our holdings, rather, is an assembly of companies that we partly own and that on a weighted basis are earning about 20% on the net tangible equity capital required to run their businesses. These companies also earn their profits without employing excessive levels of debt. Returns of that order by large, established and understandable businesses are remarkable under any circumstances. They are truly mind-blowing when compared against the return that many investors have accepted on bonds over the last decade, 3% or less on 30-year U.S. Treasury bonds, for example. On occasion, a ridiculously high purchase price for a given stock will cause a splendid business to become a poor investment, if not permanently, at least for a painfully long period. Over time, however, investment performance converges with business performance. And as I will next spell out, the record of American business has been extraordinary.
All right. The American...
That last paragraph is really
yeah. Let's actually discuss about that. So most people are okay with making 3% on their money with bonds, but like Warren Buffett says, like that's not good enough, pretty much. Okay.
Yeah. Also, he says that if the stock price goes ridiculously high, then that will if you were to buy it at a ridiculously high price, it would be a poor investment.
Yeah, agreed.
But he says over time, investment performance converges with business performance. So if the business does well, then usually the investment will do well. So.
Oh, yeah.
There was something on page 12 where he talks about the companies that are earning about 20% on their net tangible equity capital required to run their businesses. And that would be interesting to plug into like a stock screener and see what companies come up today under screening for that criteria. That should be a criteria you could easily screen for. But what's nice about following Warren Buffett is he's done that work and riding his coattails, so to speak. Have you ever heard that phrase before?
I have not.
Riding someone's coattails means basically just doing what you see the other person do. So, like, using Warren Buffett as a model to copy for investment tactics, I think is a pretty good idea because he's done so well doing what he's done.
Yeah.
Really bring good results. Anyway, I'll continue. Or except I got a car coming. How about you continue?
Okay, the American Tailwind. On March 11th, it will be 77 years since I first invested in an American business. Ooh, this is going to be fun. The year was 1942 and I was 11. I went all in on my $114.75 and began accumulating at age 6. But I bought 3 shares of City Service preferred stock. I had become a capitalist. It felt good. Now let's travel back through 2 77-year periods that preceded my purchase. That leaves us with 1788, a year prior to George Washington, to the installation of our first president. How could anyone then imagine what their new country would accomplish in only 3 77-year lifetimes? During the 2 77-year periods prior to 1942, the United States has grown from 4 million people to about 0.5% of 1% population into the most powerful country on earth in spring of 1942. Though it faced a crisis, the U.S. and its allies were suffering from heavy losses in the war that we entered only 3 months in earlier. Bad news arrive daily.
Despite the alarming headlines, almost all Americans believed on that March 11th that the war would be won. Despite the alarming headlines, almost all Americans believed on that March 11th that the war would be won. Nor was their optimism limited to that victory. Leaving aside congenital pessimists, Americans believed that their children and generations beyond would live far better lives than they themselves had led. The nation's citizens understood, of course, that the road ahead would not be a smooth ride. It never had been. Early in its history, our country was tested by a civil war that killed 4% of all American males and led President Lincoln to openly ponder whether a nation so conceived, so dedicated, could long endure. In the 1930s, America suffered through the Great Depression, a punishing period of massive unemployment. Nevertheless, in 1942, when I made my purchase, the nation expected post-war growth, a belief that proved to be well-founded. In fact, the nation's achievements can best be described as breathtaking. Let's put numbers to that claim. If my $114.75 had been invested in a no-fee S&P 500 index fund and all the dividends invested, my stake would have grown to be worth, pre-taxes, $606,811 on January 31st, 2019. The latest data before the printing of this letter. That is a gain of $5,288 for one. Meanwhile, a $1 million investment by a tax-free institution of that time, say a pension fund or college endowment, would have grown to about $5.3 billion. Let me add one additional calculation that I will believe will shock you. If that hypothetical institution had paid only 1% of assets annually to various helpers, such as investment managers and consultants, its gain would have been cut in half to $2.65 billion. That's what happens over 77 years when the 11.8% annual return actually achieved by the S&P 500 is recalculated at a 10.8% rate. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Would you like to continue?
Sure. Those who regularly preach doom because of governmental budget deficits, I regularly did promote myself for many years, might note that our country's national debt has increased 400-fold during the last 77-year period. That's 40,000%. Suppose you had to foreseen this increase and panicked at the process of a runaway deficit and a worthless country. To protect yourself, you might have eschewed the stocks and opted to buy 3 ounces of gold with your $114.75. That still would have been an okay investment. Gold.
Well, you might think so, but look how it compares.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And what would that supposed to protection have delivered? Now you would imagine an asset about 4,000.
Now you would have. There's no imaginary. Now you would have an asset worth.
Yeah. Now you would have a asset worth $4,200, less than 1%, what would have been realized from a simple unmanaged investment in an American business. Wow. So it's 99% better to invest in an American business? Is that what he's saying?
Well, 99% better would be about a doubling.
Okay.
Hold on, let me let this truck go by. It's 99 times better.
Oh, wow.
99 times is a big difference between 99% better.
Yeah.
Got another truck behind me. Let it go by. All right.
Can you read the next part?
Yeah, so $114.75 invested in the S&P 500, would have been worth what? 5 point something million dollars? What did he say?
$114.
Oh, would have been. Oh, he says 606. This is $114. If it had been invested in a no-fee S&P 500 index fund and all dividends reinvested, his stake would be worth $606,000. Okay, got that?
Okay.
So an S&P no index fund, all dividends reinvested, is $114.75 would be worth how much?
Say it again.
606,000.
606,000. Wow.
Right. Okay. So, but if he had bought or if somebody had bought the gold, 3.25 ounces of gold with that $114.75, because you could get 3.5. Does it say 3.5 or 3.25? 3.25 ounces for that price. In 2019, it would be worth how much?
2018, right? Gold to USD.
January 30, 20. It's in the letter. It would be worth $4,200.
Okay. Yeah.
Today it'd be worth more. It'd be worth. I mean, you could look up 3.25 ounces now. It's probably worth over $6,000, maybe $6,500.
Yeah.
Give or take a little bit. But still, that pales in comparison to 600,000, right? Did I lose you? Are you following along with me?
Sorry, I'm checking my emails right now because I got an important email.
Oh, yeah, we have to, well, we're almost done. I'll read and we can finish up, okay?
Okay.
Because you have to leave here in just a minute. You have to leave in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The magical metal was no match for the American metal, METTLE. Our country's almost unbelievable prosperity has been gained in a bipartisan manner. Since 1942, we have had 7 Republican presidents and 7 Democrats. In the years they served, the country contended at various times with a long period of viral inflation, a 21% prime rate, several controversial and costly wars, the resignation of a president, a pervasive collapse in home values, a paralyzing financial panic, and a host of other problems. All engendered scary headlines. All are now history. Christopher Wren, architect of St. Paul's Cathedral, lies buried within that London church. Near his tomb are posted these words of description, translated from Latin. If you would seek my monument, look around you. Those skeptical of America's economic playbook should heed his message. In 1788, to go back to our starting point, there really wasn't much here except for a small band of ambitious people and an embryonic governing framework, and aimed at turning their dreams into reality. Today, the Federal Reserve estimates our household wealth at $108 trillion, an amount almost impossible to comprehend. Remember, earlier in this letter, how I described retained earnings as having been the key to Berkshire's prosperity? So it has been with America. In the nation's accounting, the comparable item is labeled savings. And save we have. If our forefathers had instead consumed all they produced, there would have been no investment, no productivity gains, and no leap in living standards. Charlie and I happily acknowledge that much of Berkshire's success has simply been a product of what I think should be called the American tailwind. It is beyond arrogance for American businesses or individuals to boast that they have done it all, that they have done it alone. The tidy rows of simple white crosses at Normandy should shame those who make such claims. There are also many other countries around the world that have bright futures. About that, we should rejoice. Americans will be both more prosperous and safer if all nations thrive. At Berkshire, we hope to invest significant sums across borders. Over the next 77 years, however, the major source of our gains will almost certainly be provided by the American tailwind. We are lucky, gloriously lucky, to have that at our back. And then he ends the letter with the information about the annual meeting, which is how he ends them every year, and it's not relevant because it's in the past. So we're going to skip that. And he ends the letter with, for 54 years, Charlie and I have loved our jobs. Daily, we do what we find interesting, working with people we like and trust. And now our new management structure has made our lives even more enjoyable. With the whole ensemble, that is, with Ajit and Greg running operations, a great collection of businesses, a Niagara of cash generation, a cadre of talented managers, and a rock-solid culture, your company is in good shape for whatever the future brings. Warren Buffett, Chairman of the Board. Okay.
Alrighty, thank you guys so much. I gotta get going really quickly, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and have a good day, and peace out.
Thanks for watching.